Welcome back to the second episode of the video series Painted Privacy. I am the artificial avatar of Luca Bolognini, European data lawyer and essayist. Today we are talking about non confidential confidences. In recent years, my backdrop during online webinars, conferences, and presentations has been a large 17th century painting attributed to Pietro Ricci, nicknamed Il Lucchese. The oil painting depicts one of Esther's dinners with King Ahasuerus. The story is from the Hebrew Bible and Christian Old Testament, and more precisely from the Book of Esther. I like the painting. It is vibrant with its use of chiaroscuro. In The Art of Privacy, I talked about the combination of light and darkness. There are cakes and other delicacies. Esther is decked out in splendid jewelry. The king is holding a glass of red wine like a scepter, and the two lovers, if we can call them that, are gazing intently into each other's eyes. I am not going to narrate the events of that biblical tale here. If you are not already familiar with the story, I recommend you reread it even just for fun. Amid the farce, legend, and history, countless inspirations can be found, not to mention appetites, given how the protagonists never miss an occasion for daily parties and banquets. There are some massacres along the way, some narrowly avoided, others not, which make the book unsuitable as a bedtime story for children. I only want to highlight two curious aspects, which relate to privacy on the one hand and digital signatures on the other. The first concerns the crowd of people, servants, and other bystanders, huddled around the two regal and romantic dining companions. So much for privacy. The scene is reminiscent of a restaurant today with no privacy for diners, surrounded by more or less indiscreet people eager to eavesdrop, watch, and comment. This is effectively what happens. We go out to eat and we talk about even the most private things as if we were in a bubble protected from others, even though this is almost always just an illusion. The others see and hear us loud and clear, but while we are blinkered, focusing all our attention on our companion, we think, convince, and fool ourselves that we are shielded from our surroundings. And yet, contrarily, we seek those surroundings, we desire them, we give ourselves up to non confidential confidences. A book I read in the early 90s, difficult to find nowadays, but if you are in the mood for a treasure hunt, here it is: Joanne Finkelstein, Dining Out. A Sociology of Modern Manners, Cambridge, Polity Press, 1989, argues that dining out demonstrates a lack of civility for various reasons, from airing our private, even intimate exchanges in public to allowing ourselves to be waited on hand and foot in a mockery of social equality. Every aspect spoke against civilization in that critical analysis of our modern habits. Frankly, though, it is hard to argue the case for a historical reconstruction of lunch and dinner as strictly private or reserved moments for humankind. It is no coincidence that paintings of candlelit dinners without nuisance hangers on are hard to come by, except some North European 19th century romantics and other rare works. More frequently, I would say predominantly, banquet scenes are teeming with people, much like the large canvas by Paolo Veronese that you can see here in the corner. It was supposed to be a Last Supper, but the Spanish Inquisition's censorship forced it to become the feast in the house of Levi. Dining, therefore, seems to be a form of public intimacy, of unavoidable socialization, and of sharing where, for thousands of years, we have felt no need for seclusion or privacy protection. That is, at least until some stranger suddenly sits down at our table or deliberately interrupts our conversation with our dining companions, breaking the spell and bursting the bubble. At that point, we put up barriers, usually ones that are more physical than legal. Does this line of thinking strike you as pointless and disconnected from reality? Let's talk again. When our intimate dinners are crowded not only with people, in person or online, but also with interconnected intelligent objects and virtual assistants. The second is more of an idle curiosity. The story from the Book of Esther reveals that King Ahasuerus had a careless habit of entrusting those in his inner circle, one of whom, the evil Aman, would go on to betray him, with his own personal royal seal, used to sign and proclaim decrees and laws in the king's name. It goes without saying that the effects of this abundance of trust were disastrous and led to the massacres I mentioned earlier. You see where I am going with this? How many people still leave their digital signatures, complete with login credentials and PIN numbers, in the hands of their relatives, co workers, and consultants? What if those in high office were just as careless, or, if ever, digital identities and or digital signatures could be used for exercising parliamentary powers? What if MPS or senators did this? 2,200 out of 2,500 years have passed since Ahasuerus, but history, supposing that this is history, is repeating itself. Speaking of signatures, seals, and subscriptions, look here in the other corner, at the horseman galloping alongside the bolt of lightning in this landscape detail. The painting is by the Cavalier Tempesta, the nickname for Peter Moulier II, who signed his work with an image, it seems. Fascinating. Thank you for following me. I'll see you in the next episode of Diritto Dipinto. And I remind you that I am the artificial avatar of Luca Bolognini, an experiment that mixes the reality of ideas with the fiction of bits.